States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first order of business we have is on citizen comments. We're doing now at the beginning and also at the end of the agenda.
I'd just like to make a public comment based on, I guess, your last meeting when Jacob submitted his resignation letter.
Correct.
Please use mic, I can't hear you.
Oh.
Thank you, sir.
Right on the top.
Okay. Okay, when Jacob submitted his resignation letter, Dr. Karen Jerome read it, and she was going to move on, I guess, just to accept his letter. Someone in the audience said that the school board had to vote on it. And Dr. Jerome said, I looked up the procedure on it, or the policy, and she corrected that individual. Apparently, I was curious. I thought it was rather odd you'd have to vote on a resignation letter. How do you make somebody come to a meeting, you know? So I looked up the policy on it, and it states that there is no need for the board to formally approve the resignation, as a board may not compel a member to serve a full term by way of negative vote on a motion to accept. So Dr. Karen Jerome was correct, and that person in the audience was wrong. I just wanted to point that out. And that was it. Would you like to see the policy?
I already have a copy.
You have it? You got it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any other citizens? We do not have minutes to approve at this point in time, so we're going to move on to the business manager's report.
I believe that you have talked about New Hampshire PDIP, the investment pool, and whether or not that it is a good idea to utilize the pool. So the last time the district was involved with the investment pool was back in 2015. It wasn't garnering any real interest. Not really sure if that's the reason. My guess is that's the reason that we decided to no longer participate. Our cash flow probably couldn't support putting any money in the pool. Since then, in the last couple of years, the investment pool has increased substantially, and it offers towns, schools, the opportunity to gain a larger percentage of interest than you would if you had a normal savings account at the bank. So I guess last year there was some discussion about PDIP back in June, and in the previous fall, I believe, trying to gather all the different things that I've heard already, is that when the town switched over to Savings Bank of Walpole, that the school district had that conversation, and at the time the treasurer didn't support making that change, because I believe there was some understanding made with TD Bank that we would start generating some sort of interest on our average daily balance in our bank account. And that has not happened. I have January's statement if anybody would like to see it. We have gotten no interest in our average daily balance, was $1.75 million. So I believe what perhaps may have happened during that conversation was the conversation with TD Bank must have included something about doing a sweep in order to pull that money out, make sure it was FDIC insured, and that it would generate some level of interest, and still have that money be available to the district when the district needed it. I'm only guessing that that is what happened, but I can see no interest being generated. So our treasurer, who has been advocating for the pool, I am familiar with what the pool is. I helped set it up in the town where I live. I think it's a good idea for funds that are available, to put it in the pool. Now, I don't know exactly what that number would look like just yet. I haven't done a year's worth of cash flow, so I'm not really sure. I can look at history, but at the same time, I think that we are also better served by changing the way we do our banking, and perhaps adopting a sweep program. Because what the sweep does at the bank level is it generates a certain percent of interest, not quite as high as you would get in the pool, but the money would come in and out, it would go to other banks, it would all be insured. Not that you really have to worry about collateralization. In the pool specifically, I know that came up as a concern, but you know, the world would practically have to end for that to happen. The pool is so diversified at this point that you know, there'd have to be some major catastrophic event for that pool to lose its investments. As well as with a bank, you have a diversified money market account. You're probably going to get a slight drop in interest, but nothing substantial. But you can achieve a higher level of interest in the pool, but I think that we can potentially have two resources. We could start earning some interest at the bank level and earn interest at the investment pool level. Now, with that said, I haven't looked at the latest Senate bill that talked about limiting the pool's ability to invest outside of New Hampshire. They currently invest everywhere. I don't know if that bill will pass. It passed the Senate. I haven't heard, Bill, have you heard if it passed the House?
No, I have not heard it pass the House yet. I think it's before the House right now.
So at this point, we don't, so on the high side of it, you know, as long as the belief is if the bill passes, the investment pool won't last past June of 2025. So if we were to start investing in the pool, we might stop investing before the pool closes in June of 2025, if that bill passes. I'm hoping it doesn't. I don't know the likelihood of it passing. But either way, I think if we start focusing on how to improve our interest earnings on our average balance, you know, it'll just put us that further ahead. We can just return those revenues into the budget and you know, lower the overall impact to the community in terms of taxation. So I personally support doing the pool. I know it means a little more work, but I would say our policy supports it. That's the other thing you should know. It is in our policy with the board's approval. We can work together to invest in the pool. My suggestion is that we start slowly and at the same time look at how we're doing our banking in order to maximize our interest. Do you have any questions about the pool or anything in general?
I have a lot.
Yeah.
Based on my email.
Yeah, I did. I actually have some answers for you.
Because
So.
when I'm making a decision, I use research that I bring forth to the board, not just come and say do it. So my first thing is that I would like to know why out of 456 schools in New Hampshire, only 65 of them participate. That is down from 71. Also would like to know what happens. I know you said that it's not insured by the FDIC, but what happens? We know everything's getting hacked right now. What happens if the pool gets hacked and our money's gone? If our banks get hacked, the FDIC replaces it or has it insured. So what happens to our money if that was the case that happens? And then, let's see, with the fund, the information stated on their website that if there was something happened with the stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange, we would have, and we needed to pull the money out for whatever reason. If there was a hold in the stock exchange, we wouldn't be able to get that money until the stock exchange opened back up. So if we had an emergency and needed it like right away, would we be able to use it? And then, and with it going up and down, we have to realize that it's not interest per se, it's like stock. So if what we're invested in today is doing really well, and we pull it out, it's doing really bad, we're gonna lose money.
No, it's not like stock, it's different.
The website said, when I looked on your website, it said that how much you get back is dependent on what your investment closes at the end of that day.
Correct, which would be your balance plus or minus whatever interest you earned.
That's not how it was worded on there, so if that is the case, it needs to be worded better.
Okay, I can actually have someone from the pool come to a board meeting if you like. I can do that, but you want me to, do you have any other questions you want me to just answer?
Those are the ones that I just want the board to think about before we say yes or no.
Okay, the first, I think you said it was 65 something from
Yeah,
71.
the only data I could find was from 22, so if 23 has more, that's great. But I couldn't find it, I looked all over the place and couldn't find it.
So I think there's 162 school districts in
In it
the
now.
pool. And within that, there's 456 schools represented. So that's a big portion of the state. As far as fraud goes, anything has a potential for fraud. The pool is well-based, it has a history of not having issues. That's not to say the bank couldn't have an issue. So I think that the risk is no less or more in whether you use the bank or the pool. And as far as I know, the money is always available the next day. As long as you put in your request by 4 p.m., that money comes to you the next day. So I can't imagine a scenario where we wouldn't be able to utilize any of the monies that were necessary without appropriate notice to the pool. And if the Senate bill passes, I'm sure, everything is your investment is gonna come back to you, perhaps with no interest if for some reason the pool will close. But I'm not aware, I know somebody on the board, and I'm not aware of anyone having lost any money for the duration of how long it's been in service.
Cheryl, do you remember what year the legislature created the pool?
No, I don't know that.
1993.
1993.
I believe that's what it said, yeah, or 96, it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
All right, so in over 30 years, there has been no losses.
So it would be nice to maximize the amount of interest that we could potentially get. We can't get as high as in the pool. We can't get at the bank as high as we would get if we were in the pool. But I think if you do some in each, you're still gonna, level that overall risk that you have. But as of right now, it doesn't make sense to me to sit on, almost $2 million in the bank and not earn anything for it, whatever that ends up looking like.
And so I had two other questions
Yeah.
to go with that. So if we're putting money into it, is it just money, or can we say like, okay, we have $100,000 in the capital reserve. Can we take 25,000 of that, put it in there so we can earn the interest or whatever it is, and then when we need to work on the roof, we can pull it out to have extra money to put on the roof instead of having to ask the town for it, or does it all just have to go into our general operating budget?
That's a process question, really. I don't know that it, I know that there are certain conditions that you're bound by your capital funds, how you put money in and how you take money out. I believe this particular district, with the board's approval, you can take money out of your capital fund. I know not every school district has that ability without putting it on a warrant to be able to expend it or reassign it. So I think it would make sense to perhaps start putting some money in the pool and using that level of interest to offset a capital improvement rather than pull the money out of the capital fund itself.
Yeah, so
So-
if we did that, I just wanna make sure that we're able to use it towards
Any way you
something
want,
that's
they
absolutely.
don't, they just say, you say, I want $100,000, and the pool says, okay, here. And then the difference is, the calculated interest is based on how many days it sits in the pool. So if you pull it out sooner than you need it, obviously you would generate less interest. Whereas if you pull it out, the day before you want to make a payment to somebody, you've maximized that level of interest. The more you have sitting in the pool for a longer period of time, obviously, the more interest you're going to generate. So there's no restriction there's no restrictions on how much you take out on any given day.
But the state, the DOE doesn't say.
The DOE
that-
has no say.
Oh, because it's our funds, because it's our
Right.
educational fund, that's where I'm worried, it's just I wanna make sure that if we do this and we have anything, like the roof, then we can pull it out and use it for the roof, we don't have to use it for other things, for whatever the DOE has.
No, I think the only way someone might have a say is if you put it in the capital fund for those purposes. But if you're using your general fund monies before they're spent to help generate interest in the pool, and you're still paying all your bills, that's your money to do with what you wish. It's just like it's just sitting in two different places. It's in the pool and it's in the general fund both, but the pool's generating interest.
And you were mentioning, Cheryl, that you were going to do a little bit at a time to see how it worked, not a whole lot to begin with, to kind of test it out.
Correct, because I would really like to explore how we're currently doing our banking to generate interest on this very high balance that, fluctuates